It was a peaceful, quiet Monday afternoon at a popular restaurant in Abuja, Royal Spoon Cafe. Soft jazz played in the background. Waiters glided between tables, and the thick aroma of pepper soup and sizzling plantains danced through the air. Businessmen in neatly pressed suits tapped on laptops. Couples laughed softly over smoothies. Others scrolled silently through their phones while chewing slowly. It was calm. It was curated. But in just minutes, that polished setting would be turned upside down. By a whisper, presence. An old woman. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dangerous. She was just hungry. The glass door of the restaurant creaked open. At first, no one paid attention. People kept eating. Waiters kept walking. But soon, heads started turning. A few eyebrows lifted. She had entered. Her name was Mama Ada. She looked frail, her wrapper faded, her blouse torn at the shoulder, and her bare feet dusty from the streets. She held a small black nylon bag with both hands, gripping it tightly to her chest like it held her last ounce of dignity. Her back was slightly stooped, her cheeks sunken, her eyes gentle but exhausted. "Mama, come on," a nearby waiter whispered to another. "How did she enter?" "She must be here to beg," the other replied with a shrug. Mama Ada moved slowly across the room, one unsteady step after another. Her feet made no sound, but her presence was shouting. Several people started whispering. A woman in a red ghillie turned to her husband. "Aha, what is this now?" she whispered. "Why are they letting someone like this walk into a place like this?" But Mama Ada didn't even notice. Or maybe she ignored it. She made her slow journey to the counter. Behind it stood the restaurant's manager, a tall man named Collins, dressed in an impeccable white shirt and dark blue trousers. His name badge hung proudly. As she reached the counter, she spoke in a voice so soft, it was almost a whisper. "Please, sir, I haven't eaten since yesterday. I'm not asking for much. Maybe just leftovers. Even bones." The room changed. One man near the bar rotated in his stool. Another removed his earpiece, listening. A third lowered his sunglasses to see what madness was unfolding. Collins paused. He looked up at Mama Ada. He scanned her from top to bottom. Her cracked feet, her hollow cheeks, the trembling hands holding that tiny nylon bag. And then he laughed. Not nervously, not politely. He laughed loudly, confidently, so everyone could hear. "Madam, are you lost?" he barked. "This is a restaurant, not a roadside dump." People's heads turned. A few giggled nervously. One teenager across the room raised her phone to start recording. Mama Ada didn't react. She just stood still. Her eyes didn't cry. Her lips didn't curl. She just kept her back straight and her head bowed. "We don't feed beggars here," Collins added. "Try your luck outside, Mama." A waiter covered his mouth to hide a smirk. Another whispered, "That's too harsh now." But Collins wasn't done. "Get out before my customers run away. Go, go." Silence spread like a fog across the restaurant. But Mama Ada didn't move. She pressed the bag tighter to her chest. Some guests weren't laughing. An older man near the window scratched his chin and turned away. A nursing mother paused from feeding her child. A young couple put down their cutlery. "She's just old and hungry," whispered one young woman. "Those feet, though. My God." Still Collins barked. "This is a business, not a charity. You don't belong here." Finally, something moved. In the shadows of the restaurant, a woman in a sleek champagne-colored gown with matching gold heels stood up slowly. Her face was calm, but her eyes burrowed deep into truth. Her name was Dr. Remy, recently returned to Abuja after 8 years working overseas in trauma surgery. She came home in search of rest, peace, familiar food. But now her lunch was forgotten, her spoon untouched. She had been watching since the moment Mama Ada walked in. Every insult, every puff of pride from Collins. Her chest tightened. Her breath caught as her eyes locked not on Mama Ada's face, but on her necklace. Thin chain, old, tarnished, dull, yet unmistakably familiar. Dr. Remy slowly reached into her purse and pulled out her phone, zooming in quietly. Her fingers trembled slightly, eyes wide. Couldn't be. The pendant, a round silver coin, was scarred but identical. It matched the one she gave her friend back in boarding school. Her best friend. Her sister in all but blood. Her eyes blinked in disbelief. Could it be? As the room simmered in silent tension, she stood. She walked. Her heels echoed on tiles. Each step made people glance, look away, look again. Collins saw her coming. He straightened with a half-smile. But the smile vanished when she stopped next to Mama Ada. "Did I just hear you insult this woman for being hungry?" she asked. Not yelling, but every syllable hit like glass. "Madam, please, don't cause drama here," Collins tried to warn. "She came to beg. That's all." Dr. Remy's voice sharpened. "And because of that, you think she deserves shame?" Now others turned. Phones lifted. Heads tilted. "What if she were your mother? Is this how we treat our elders now?" she asked the room. Silence. At last, a hushed voice responded. "This is too much. My mother's that age." A man near the front muttered. "This one cut deep. We've lost our humanity." Collins began to sweat. "She's not a beggar," Dr. Remy continued. "She's a wife, a mother, someone who gave everything. And all she asked for was mercy." Mama Ada blinked slowly, but still hadn't spoken. Then Collins scoffed again and dared say, "Madam, please, I'm just protecting my business." But this time Dr. Remy didn't flinch. "Touch your business then, Collins," she said coldly. "But if you say one more word, trust me, you'll be jobless by tomorrow morning." Phones flashed. Eyes widened. Collins froze. She stepped close to Mama Ada and whispered gently, "Mama, today you eat with me. Let me take care of you now." Dr. Remy gently placed her hand on the old woman's arm. "Mama, come. Let's sit down and eat together." The restaurant had fallen completely silent. No music.
No laughter. No clashing cutlery.
Just eyes, all watching the two women. Mama Ada's hands shook as she followed Dr. Remy to an empty seat by the window. Not a single word left her mouth, but her grip stayed tight on that small black nylon bag. It was all she had, probably everything she owned. The waiter, face pale now, nervously approached with a tray. On it, a plate of fried rice piled high with chicken, coleslaw, and steaming plantains. A bottle of cold water sat one side, still dripping with condensation. He set it down quietly in front of Mama Ada. She stared at it like it wasn't real. "Mama," Dr. Remy said softly, "you're safe. Please eat." Her hands reached out, trembling. She picked up the spoon. A small bite, then another. That was when the tears came. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that draw attention. But the quiet, heavy tears that only fall from people who have suffered far too long without being seen. "You're a good woman," she whispered with shaky lips. "God will bless you. I was very hungry." Dr. Remy gently squeezed her hand in return. "You don't need to thank me. You've survived enough." But her eyes, now calmed, kept drifting back to that necklace. The same dull silver pendant with a faded circular charm that she had last seen years ago, around the neck of her best friend, Rosalind. Couldn't be coincidence. Watching Mama Ada now, the posture, the soft eyes, the pain hiding behind every movement, and the necklace, especially that. She leaned in just slightly. "Mama, I don't mean to disturb you, but this necklace, where did you get it?"
Mama Ada paused.
Her hand froze halfway with the spoon. She lowered it slowly. Her aged fingers drifted toward the necklace. She touched it like it was made of glass. Her expression changed, as if someone had flipped through a chapter long forgotten. "It belonged to my daughter," she said softly. "Rosalind. She gave it to me before she passed." Dr. Remy's lips parted. Her heart began pounding. "Rosalind? What was her full name, Mama?" There was a pause. Then the answer that froze time. "Rosalind Massimo. My only child. My joy." A sickness took her from me. A gasp escaped from Dr. Remy's lips. She reached into her handbag urgently. Hands trembling, scrambling. She pulled out an old faded photo, edges torn but the image still sharp enough. Mama, please, look at this. Is this her? Mama Ada took the photo slowly. Her hands trembled as they rose to her eyes. Her lips opened, but she didn't speak. Her chest rose. Then she let out a faint gasp. This is my Rosalind. My child, she whispered. How did you knew her? Dr. Remy nodded, struggling to speak, her voice cracking from emotion. She was my everything, Mama. My best friend. My sister. We met in secondary school. She helped me through the hardest years of my life. Mama Ada pressed the photo gently against her chest like her entire soul had been returned to her through a photograph. She told me about you, Jasmine continued. Before she passed, she said, find my mother. If you ever can, please, find her. Tears spilled down Dr. Remy's cheeks now. After that, her number stopped going through. I tried. I searched. But no one knew where you'd gone. I feared the worst. Mama Ada wiped her face with the back of her wrapper. Her tiny frame almost collapsed from the weight of the moment. She had long believed no one remembered, that all doors had closed. But here was her daughter's best friend, crying across the table from her, holding her picture, speaking her name. 2 broken hearts, 2 generations, now slowly piecing each other back together. That night, Jasmine couldn't sleep. The pain in Mama Ada's words had haunted her since she was a girl. And now she had a chance to make things right. Not just for Rosalind, but for the woman who had raised her. The next few days moved like a dream. First, Jasmine arranged a full medical checkup for Mama Ada, private hospital, not a charity clinic. Blood work, x-rays, new glasses, proper nourishment. Doctors gave her vitamins, regular checkups, and a small personal nurse to visit weekly. Then, Jasmine showed her a house, a small bungalow outside town, painted cream with potted plants by the doorway. The sitting room smelled of fresh polish. 2 bedrooms, soft beds, brand new gas cooker, a clean bathroom with running water, her own bathroom. Mama Ada couldn't believe her eyes. This is mine? She asked in a voice that barely left her throat. Jasmine smiled. Yes, Mama. It's all yours now. She brought in a caretaker named Peace, a kind young woman who moved into the spare room just to help Mama Ada cook, clean, and stay healthy. Next, Jasmine went a step further. She arranged a monthly allowance for her. Enough for food, new clothes, anything she needed. Cold, hard dignity, placed right back into the old woman's hands. A few days later, they sat together in her new home. Jasmine video called her kids and husband abroad. On the screen, the grandkids called her Grandma Ada. She smiled for the first time in years. Not with lips, but deep, from the heart. And then one calm night, after a cup of warm rice pap and roasted corn shared on the balcony, Jasmine said, Mama, there's something else I need to tell you. Mama Ada turned. Her old eyes blinked softly in the moonlight. Yes, my daughter? Jasmine took a breath, then whispered, I'm an orphan, Mama. I lost both my parents before I turned 12. The night air was soft. On the patio of her new home, Mama Ada sat gently on a cushioned wooden chair. The porch light glowed warmly. Nearby, Dr. Jasmine stirred her tea. Both had been quiet for a minute, letting peace fill the space between them. Then Jasmine spoke. Mama, she said softly, I never told you this, but I'm actually an orphan. Mama Ada turned her head, eyes steady, but filled with quiet curiosity. Jasmine looked away for a moment, her voice thickening. I lost my parents when I was just a child. My father died suddenly when I was 9. My mother passed 2 years later. Felt like my whole world collapsed. I had no siblings, no support. She took a deep, shaky breath and continued. I was just a skinny schoolgirl who sold groundnuts in nylon bags to buy her socks. But God, she smiled faintly, God sent me your daughter.
Mama Ada blinked.
Her hands tightened around the porcelain cup. Rosalind. Jasmine nodded slowly. She never treated me like a pity case. Never looked down on me once. Even when I had no books, no steady home. She was there. She shared her food, her notes, her umbrella, her life. Tears welled slowly in Mama Ada's eyes, but she stayed silent, holding every word carefully, like a wound being stitched slowly. Jasmine continued, voice cracking with emotion. When everyone else avoided me, your daughter was my anchor. Until the last day I saw her. We were 21. She hugged me tight and said, if something happens and we lose each other, promise me, you'll find my mother. She stopped to wipe her eyes. I never forgot that promise. That's why after I graduated from medical school, and finally saved up enough to come back home, I searched. I went to your old house. They told me you'd left, that no one had heard from you again. But life somehow brought us back together. Mama Ada's tears now flowed without sound. She reached across and held Jasmine's hand with both of hers. Rosalind was always like that, she finally whispered. Even when she was just a girl, thoughtful, stubborn, full of giving. She once gave away her shoes to another child and lied to me that she lost them in the gutter. They both laughed quietly through the tears. She always kept that soft heart, Jasmine replied. There on the porch, under the soft buzz of the light bulb, surrounded by stillness, they sat as if time itself paused to watch. And little by little, Jasmine shared the final part of her truth. She explained how Rosalind had used her father's gratuity, money paid years after his death, to sponsor Jasmine's passport, visa, and flight ticket. At the time, Jasmine had earned a scholarship overseas, full tuition, but couldn't leave. She had no way to afford the travel. I told her it was impossible, Jasmine said. But she looked me right in the eye and said, if God brought you this far, he'll take you further. 1 week later, she came running, waving a check. Her father's money had finally come. She paid for every single thing. Mama Ada covered her mouth with her hand, crying softly as Jasmine added, Mama, everything I am today, everything I have become, was made possible by your daughter. She believed when I didn't, and now I want to honor that. She turned slowly and met Mama Ada's gaze. I know I will never be Rosalind, but I promise you, Mama, as long as I breathe, you will never lack anything again. Quiet fell over the porch again, but this time it was filled with strength, not sorrow. Mama Ada shakily nodded and whispered, Thank you, my daughter. They sat like that for a long time, 2 hearts healed by a third one lost. Days turned to weeks, and Jasmine never disappeared. Unlike so much else in Mama Ada's life, every other day she visited, sometimes with fresh fruit, sometimes with warm rice, sometimes just with conversation. She spoke about surgery and faraway countries. Mama Ada spoke about village stories, Rosalind's childhood mischief and favorite songs. Jasmine also introduced her own children through video call, smiling little faces calling her Grandma Ada. The old woman's laughter became music in the house. She joked. She danced slowly to old gospel songs. Her back was still bent, but her spirit stood tall again. One day, as she folded wrappers inside her room, she glanced at her old nylon bag, now empty, and smiled. My black nylon has finally retired, she said to Peace, the kind housekeeper Jasmine had assigned to her. Peace laughed. That bag saw war, Mama. Ah!
Mama Ada croaked playfully.
It carried all my treasures. Both women laughed until their sides hurt. But the world hadn't forgotten that restaurant. The day Collins insulted Mama Ada was still living online in posts, comments, and stitched videos. But it wasn't the insult that trended, it was the kindness. And that kindness had started a movement. At a small cafe across town, a young lady named Janet sat with her sister one morning. She had been at the restaurant that day and witnessed everything. She hadn't moved then, but the memory never stopped echoing. People need to hear this, she told her sister. She opened her laptop and wrote, This happened not long ago at a restaurant here in Abuja. It wrecked something inside me. She described everything. How Collins mocked a frail woman, how people watched quietly, and how one woman stood up and turned shame into triumph. She posted it online anonymously. She didn't say the restaurant's name, but the internet did. Within 3 days, her story had been shared over 10,000 times. And on the 5th day, it reached someone it shouldn't have missed. Madame Stella, the true owner of that luxurious restaurant chain, was sitting overseas when her daughter called. "Mommy, your manager is trending. For all the wrong reasons." Madame Stella read the story with shaking hands. She called her staff immediately. "Tell Collins not to come back. Not tomorrow. Not ever." Collins, the once proud restaurant manager, walked back into Royal Spoon Cafe 4 days later, holding his car keys and humming to himself. He stepped through the front doors like he owned the place, ready to carry on as if nothing happened. But something had changed. There was no greeting, no nods from the staff, no badge waiting for him behind the front desk. Only silence. A white envelope sat neatly on the countertop with his name written in neat block letters. Inside, a simple termination letter from management. No apology, no explanation, just accountability. He stood there for a long second, frozen. None of the waiters looked him in the eye. None of the staff said a word. The viral post had done its job. The world had seen. And now so had the bosses. His arrogance had finally caught up with him. Collins lowered the envelope, straightened his collar, turned and walked out. For the first time in years, there was no swagger in his step. Just silence. Just consequence. But meanwhile, across the city, life had taken a different turn. Where once she walked barefoot and hungry, Mama Ada now walked slowly through the garden of her new home, slippers on her feet, water bottle in hand. The world no longer looked away from her. It had opened its arms. The woman who came to a restaurant begging for bones now had a home of her own. Helpers who treated her with care, groceries in the fridge, and blessings too many to count. Jasmine, true to her word, never let go. She visited regularly, sometimes to drop off food, sometimes to sit and talk, and sometimes to cry softly while reading Rosalind's old letters. One afternoon, Jasmine arrived with her husband on a video call. "Mama," she grinned, turning the phone toward her. "Meet my husband." On the screen, a kind-looking African man waved excitedly. "So this is the famous mother-in-love," he laughed. "I've heard so much about you." Behind him, Jasmine's 2 young children waved and shouted. "Hi, Grandma Ada." The old woman chuckled openly, that grandmother smile returning to her cheeks like sunshine kissing earth after rain. She waved at the screen, then whispered, "They remember me." "They always will," Jasmine replied. In this new house, evenings were no longer silent and sad. They were filled with warmth, with gospel music humming from the living room television, with curry stew bubbling on the stove, with Pisa's voice singing half-forgotten lullabies in the kitchen. And every now and then, Jasmine and Mama Ada would sit on the front porch, holding hands and just breathe. "You know," Mama Ada once said, "I used to think life forgot about me." She looked around at her clean home, the quiet sky, and softly swaying curtains. But life was just waiting, waiting for the right angel. Jasmine smiled. "Your daughter was that angel to me, Mama. Now I'm just here to complete the circle she started." But the story didn't end there. Because though Mama Ada had received peace, the lesson she became, what she represented, kept rippling beyond their gates. Back at the restaurant where everything had started, Madame Stella, the owner, made sure that something changed permanently. She implemented a new policy. Every leftover food tray from the day would be boxed and delivered to a local shelter at night. The staff were retrained on how to treat everyone with dignity, no matter what they wore or how they walked in. Sometimes, broken things don't need to be thrown away. They need to be repurposed. Just like wooden scraps can become firewood, and ashes can grow gardens, shame can fuel transformation. And they weren't the only ones watching. Because this story, quiet as it began, had traveled across the nation. From blogs to Facebook, from church services to early morning devotionals. On one forum, an elderly man reshared it with a message. "That old woman could have been my sister." A teacher wrote, "I read this to my class today. We cried quietly together. They now stand up when I enter." A mother said, "We've started feeding just one elderly stranger every Sunday. She blesses me more than I bless her. It was no longer about pity. It had become about remembrance. An invitation to remember that everyone you meet carries an untold story. One that didn't begin in pain, but may have gotten stuck there. A reminder that those who wear dust on their feet may have once stood beside royalty, and may again. Weeks after the media storm cooled, Jasmine stood beside Mama Ada again, this time in a quiet church during an early morning Thanksgiving. She held a frame that read, Rosalind Massimo gone but guiding. As Jasmine knelt to give thanks, Mama Ada sat beside her, hands clasped in prayer, whispering softly, Thank you, my daughter. Thank you for seeing me when the world had gone blind. And now, as you, the viewer, finish this story, ask yourself, have I judged someone by their condition instead of their character? When I could have spoken up for someone, did I stay silent? Would I walk across the room if someone needed my kindness? Sometimes the most powerful sermons are lived, not preached. The lesson you've been waiting for. The world didn't change because Jasmine had money. It didn't change because Collins got fired. It changed because one person said, This is not okay, I'll do something. The woman once mocked is now loved. The man once arrogant is now unemployed. The friend once lost is now honored, not forgotten. What part of this story touched your heart most? Was it the moment the necklace unlocked the past? Was it the food that turned into family? Or was it the truth that kindness can cost nothing, yet change everything? Please leave a comment below. You never know, your story might heal someone else. Like, share, subscribe, because the next touching African story is coming in just a few days. From all of us here at africanfolktales, thank you for watching. And always remember, no one is too broken to be found, and no kindness is ever wasted.